good evening, good morning. You are in the world. So, in a few minutes, about to begin, integrate and deploy Dynamo as a Revit button. Sharer this evening hails. Let's confirm if he is currently in Netherlands. But from what I've heard, he's a Spaniard. So let me bring in Jaime Alonso Candao. Take it away.
Yep, sure. Today I'm gonna be talking about integrate and deploy DynamoScript at scale. So I'm very happy to be here with you. It's been a real pleasure to be joining today and be able to share what we have done so far at Nonica.io. So first, a little bit about us. So we're a small team. We're a small company. We're based in Netherlands in Delft. We basically are architects that we used to struggle with issues when we were automating Dynamo scripts. So we basically develop solutions to integrate and deploy Dynamo scripts at a scale. We work with companies like providing them the service of implementing those automation strategies. But before the presentation, I thought it is interesting to give like a brief introduction of what Dynamo is. I'm pretty sure that most of you have heard of it before, or have worked with it before. But maybe there is somebody that has never heard of it or want to know more about it. So Dynamo is basically a no-code programming interface that is built in Revit and Civil 3D. It is basically a way for architects and engineers to build custom commands and functions. So it is used as a platform to interact with other interfaces such as Excel, Navisworks, Fusion. You have like a lot of flexibility to work with Dynamo and to work with other software solutions. But in this case, we're gonna mainly focus in Revit. Dynamo is mainly used for automations, but it can also be used for parametric design, for advanced analysis such as sustainability analysis or structural analysis. And in the top left corner, you see an example of a Dynamo script, a very simple example. It's basically just a few nodes that you drop into a canvas, and then you interconnect them to create the function. In this case, the function is exporting data from a Revit model to an Excel file. Very simple. And from there, we're going to jump into our software solution. NonicaTab is a project we started more than 2 years ago. Basically, it started as a framework of empty bottoms that can be very easily customized with Dynamo scripts and description and icons. So in order to set up an empty bottom, you just need to select a Dynamo script, and then you can select an icon for that bottom. And the icon will go straight away into the bottom. Then we can also change the name and the description of the bottom. This is very helpful to explain what the Dynamo script actually does. So in this case, we have a class detection script that it detects the classes between two Revit categories. And our framework does work the same way as any other Revit bottom. So whenever you hover over the bottom, you get all the information, which is very intuitive and user-friendly for Revit professionals. From there, we have the executions. There are different ways of executing NonicaTab bottoms. Basically, when you execute or press a bottom, what our app is going to do is going to run Dynamo in the background, and it's going to bring all the results into your Revit file directly. So you don't need to actually load Dynamo and look for your script and run it. So it's much faster and efficient. So in this case, we're going to run a script with input nodes. So when those input nodes are detected, we can actually input data into the Dynamo script in order to run them. But we can also freeze and unfreeze nodes before running them directly from Revit. So whenever we click on apply and run, we directly get all the results from our script in the Revit file. In this case, as I was saying, it was a class detection script. And as you can see, 6 new 3D views has been created with the classes detected in the file. But additionally, in the top right corner, you can see that there's a notification cloud. This notification cloud basically let us know how was our script run. It let us know if it was any errors or warnings detected in the execution. But what we like more about this notification cloud is that actually, if there are errors or warnings detected, you can actually get a full report of all the errors in the script. So whenever you click on the notification cloud, you get all the nodes that brought the errors, but all the messages attached to those nodes. And you can actually export those to Excel. From there, there is actually a faster way to access your script, so you don't even have to look for the bottom. You can easily set up a shortcut from our system, and it will basically run the Dynamo directly without having to go to push for it. So, for example, the first bottom is going to have a default shortcut, which is going to be Shift A1, and the second one, yeah. And as soon as we go into the setup details, we can see the shortcuts. But if we set up the same shortcut for two script, we can create a playlist, and we can change the order of the scripts in the playlist. And as soon as we click on the shortcut, both scripts in the playlist are going to be run, one after the other, and we still get full reports of all the executions. Additionally, we have the second script, which is a export to Excel category, another Dynamo script. And that's how easy it is to create playlists of Dynamo scripts with Nonica. But then we also have the scheduler. The scheduler is meant to schedule the execution of Dynamo scripts. So now you no longer need to actually explain or go or press a shortcut. You can just schedule that execution to happen by time or by action. So you can tell Nonica to run a certain script every 60 minutes, every 80 minutes, how often you want, or you can do so by action. By action means that every time as the certain action you have selected is executed, of course, the action is going to first be executed, but then after that, the Dynamo script is going to be run. So for example, if we select, for example, to schedule the entire playlist and execute when saved, the files is going to be first saved, and then the script is going to be executed. And as we selected the entire playlist, we get the two scripts run automatically. This is very helpful to actually implement automation in teams. So you can work with friendly reminders to, for example, implement quality controls or to export information from Revit to other formats. But we have been looking at 12 bottoms all the time at the top, but Nonica actually have the possibility to host up to 36 Dynamo scripts. So you can switch between them at runtime very easily. And those can be used for different task purposes. For example, if you have a modeling script, if you have like auditing scripts or other type of scripts. And the cool thing is that whenever you have your script, all your 36 Revit bottom sets, you can just go into settings and click on export. And you can choose to include shortcuts or not, and then you can just create a .nonica file. Well, the .nonica file is going to basically include all the information of your bottoms. It's going to include descriptions, names, Dynamo scripts, all the shortcuts, all the scheduling information. But what is most powerful is that it's going to detect all the Dynamo packages in your scripts, and it's going to include them in the process. Now in the screen, we've seen how the export process works with Theme. So whenever you have a toolbar that was already created and you're going to create a new version of it, you have the possibility to also push data into that toolbar. So you create a record of all the changes made in that toolbar and who and when were those changes made. And then as soon as we click on overwrite file, the .nonica file is going to be created in your computer. But for importing, it is also very simple. We just need to go into settings and we just go and click on import and select the .nonica file we want. We're going to select a different .nonica file this time. And we get, as I was saying, all the bottoms that we previously exported, maybe from another computer, and there is no need to set up anything. All the Dynamo packages, as I was saying, and all the configuration of your bottoms are coming straight away. But then we realized that some companies that we were working with, they had large teams and they didn't want to be exporting and importing their bottoms every time they want to update their toolbars. So if they, for example, wanted to make an update in a Dynamo script in the toolbar, they didn't want to say like every user, please import. So we created a way to actually push changes remotely from an admin computer. And this is basically done through OneDrive or Dropbox, through any cloud service that has a desktop app. So in order to push those changes, it's also very, very simple. So we basically first need to export from the admin computer the toolbar we want to deploy in our team. So we go into OneDrive and we create the .nonica file we were talking about with all the information of our bottoms. As soon as it is exported, we go into the target computer. The target computer could be 1 or could be 1,000. It doesn't really matter. And then we go into Connect now. From Connect, we select the same .nonica file and click on Open. And then basically this computer is going to be connected to the main one. So whenever we make a change, for example, we are going to update the script. We're going to also update the icon. And also, I think we make some changes in the name. Yeah, we make some changes in the name as well, just to make it more evident. And to push changes remotely from the admin computer, we basically just export and export on top of the connected file. And then we got this possibility to add a record to the changes. So what changes happen in the toolbar? So we updated the class detection script in this case, but also the name and the icon, let's say. And then we click on overwrite file. This is going to update the center file. And from the target computer, every time a script is run, it's going to check the latest version. So now we run a script and the latest, it is detected that the version that is in the computer is not the latest. So it brings the latest and push all the changes without having to export and import. All this is happening automatically. But what is most important is that the final user also knows what is happening in the toolbar. They get a pop-up that lets them know who made the change, when was the change made, and what was the description of the change. For example, in this case, the class detection script and the name. And then we realized that there are actually different ways of working with Dynamo scripts. So, for example, there is one way that is that you press Control and NonicaTab, and this is going to open Dynamo in editing mode, but it's going to open directly the Dynamo file that is in that bottom. So you can actually make the changes you want, and after you have made them, you save them, and those changes are directly in the bottom. Nothing else to do. And additionally, another way is to go to Dynamo. You load Dynamo, select the file, and you make the changes you want. And that change is going to be made in your file, but not in the toolbar. So once you made all the changes you want in all the scripts, in order to make them effective in the toolbar, you can simply come into refresh buttons. And this is gonna literally bring all the latest version of all your scripts into your toolbar in one click. But deployments are very, very, very nice. But sometimes we felt before actually making these developments that a lack of data was not in place for taking specific actions. So what we did is we developed a data analytics system, system that is composed by four graphs that brings a lot of information about how, who, and when your Dynamo scripts are used in your teams. So basically, the one in uh, the one that is called overall execution status at the top left, it brings a summary of all the execution by all users at all times. If there runs with errors or with warnings, those are also going to be displayed there. But then at the right, we also see a timeline graph. This timeline graph is going to show us how, when our script are run and how the automation strategy with our Dynamo script is going. So if we have more executions now than before, we can conclude that actually it's improving over time because more tasks are being automated now than before. But we also see the number of errors over time, which is very helpful to tackle them and update Dynamo scripts if necessary. Then in the right, we see Revit and Dynamo version. This is gonna pretty much show us the Revit and Dynamo version from our users. Sometimes there are incompatibilities between Dynamo versions that we have solved within Nonica. So you can actually see how many users are using the different softwares and work with them if they are not using the latest version you want them to. And then at the bottom, we have execution by bottoms and execution by users. The execution by bottoms is going to pretty much show by, the number of executions that were successfully done with warnings or errors for each Dynamo script that you have in your toolbar. So you can actually see which Dynamo script was used most and which was used least. But also, if there is a certain Dynamo script that have many errors, you can also work on them to improve them in the deployment. And then the execution by users. Maybe I can explain this more as we go. So as soon as you click in the settings and in the data analytics section, you get all these built-in graphs. There's nothing else you have to do. All is there. Basically, as I was saying, all these graphs are interactive. So this is very powerful because we want to bring all the information we want to the admin of the deployment. So whenever you, let me go back. Yeah. So whenever you hover over a graph, you are going to see and explore the information in that graph. But that also happened with the timeline graph. You can actually see which point is holding that information, and you can also change the time frame of that the graph is displaying. You can switch between 48 hours, 60 days, or 18 months, and you can explore the data of the different configurations. Additionally, as I was saying, also the Revit and Dynamo version, and at the bottom also the bar chart. You can also explore all that data. And when you select by users at the top of this bottom chart, you also get all the execution by users. So if there is a user that is barely using the app or is barely, it's not automating task using NonicaTab, you can detect it and propose training opportunities or maybe reassign the license. So it really brings data to the next level and enables you to take very specific actions when you are doing your automation strategy. But data is much more powerful when you start crossing fields. So we created filtering options. So first of all, you can filter by time. You can select a time frame and show only the data for that time frame. But also you can filter by user. So you can select the user you want, and all the graphs are going to display all the information only for that specific user. And you can see how that user is doing over time. Yeah, we can also switch by the user, or we can select the Revit file. If we select the Revit file, it's going to display the Revit file that that user is using the script in. And finally, we can export all the graphs to image if we want to share with somebody else. So it is really, really simple and powerful to use across team. But this is, well, our data visualization system is kind of like a summary of all the data that NonicaTab is gathering within your computer. We are not taking the data to the cloud or anything like that. All the data that you have seen, that you are exploring, is within your computer and your OneDrive location. So basically, every time you push a NonicaTab button, these 15 fields of information are filled into your personal computer. So all this information is being well, it's been developed compatible with Power BI and Excel. So by default, as I was saying, it's in your computer, it's in program files of Nonica Pro, and you can easily go for it. It's a TXT file, very easy to open. We're not going to go into the detail of it, but it is easy to access. And then we have, when you deploy it across teams, and you use a OneDrive folder, as we explained before, all the execution, all the users are going to be creating these files into next to the .nonica file. So you're going to be able to explore all the information by your users directly from your OneDrive created OneDrive location. And these are all the user information created by them. But then we can create our custom graphs. So we explore our built-in graphs, but the data is NonicaTab is gathering, it's much more wider. So you can actually explore, for example, the nodes that were run with errors. So every single nodes that were run with an error in a Dynamo script is going to be recorded in the database of the executions, but also which packages were run. And you can create your custom graphs with Power BI or Excel to make your data interactive, or your custom graphs if you want to explore something else. And that's the end of the presentation. I hope you enjoy the presentation, and please, if you have any question, feel free to ask them, and I will be really happy to try to answer them. Thank you very much.
So, yep, looking forward to our growth and to have a repeat as they get to hear about Nonica's uh, solution. So, very excited for you, Jaime, and Nonica's growth. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.